Hey everyone, I'm Jamie Fleming from Teamsters Local 174 in Seattle. You might recognize my voice from such videos as a financial analysis of UPS and questions and answers about the financial analysis of UPS. I was asked by several people to address some of the claims made in a video presentation by a UPS driver, and they talked me into giving up my voiceover career in favor of being on camera. So here's a bit of background. The original video was made by a fellow named Tyler, who is a member of Local 344 in Wisconsin. He's been a pretty long-term member of the UPS Vote No movement. The Vote No movement has been around a long time, and their only goal is to get UPS members to vote against the contract, no matter what it says. The current gang has been pushing for a no vote on this current contract proposal since pretty much the time the last contract was ratified. So clearly they have their own agenda that has nothing to do with what's in the agreement. So anyway, in Tyler's video, he goes through a whiteboard full of numbers trying to convince people that this contract sucks. As you can see, I have recreated Tyler's whiteboard, and I'm going to go through most of it in the same order he does. So he starts with talking about the 22-4 position. Tyler describes it as a step down from the regular package car driver job, saying that no RPCD, which is the acronym in the new contract for a regular package car driver, would want to take a pay cut to work weekends. This shows a fundamental misunderstanding of which job the 22-4 is intended to replace. The 22-4 is not intended to be some sort of replacement to the RPCD position. Instead, it's a major step up from the position of utility driver or temporary cover driver, or whatever it's called at your local. It becomes clear in Tyler's third video why he was confused about this, because he states that his local does not have a utility driver part-time position. However, 80% of the country does have such a position. That position is part-time, with part-time healthcare and pension and part-time wages. So that's the apples-to-apples comparison. And there you'll see that the 22-4 position is an improvement in every conceivable way. No one is being forced to take the job. It's only for people who want it. You might think it sounds like a crappy gig, so then don't bid it. I've spoken to many part-timers who are actually excited about this opportunity. To them, it will improve everything about the job they're doing now. That's not a concession, that's a huge improvement. Also, by definition, not a two-tier system, because a 22-4 can bid into a protected RPCD top rate position when it's vacated. So really, it's more like an alternate progression. Someone can either go through progression as an RPCD to reach that top rate position, or they can go through the 22-4 progression and then eventually bid into a top rate RPCD position. Two different ways of reaching the exact same point. It would be two-tier if a 22-4 could never reach that point, but they can, so it's not. Next, part-timers. Tyler spends a lot of time talking about part-time wage rates and part-time pension rates. His overall point seems to be that the wages and pensions part-timers receive currently and the increases that they will receive under this new contract aren't enough to live on. This seems to show another pretty fundamental misunderstanding, this time of the difference between part-time and full-time work. I mean, does anyone really expect one part-time job to be enough to live on? Most people who work part-time have more than one job, or they have a spouse with a full-time job, or they're going to school. Most part-timers at UPS are there for the healthcare anyway. And if you really want the part-timers to earn as much working 20 hours a week as you do working 40 hours a week, ask yourself what you're willing to give up to make that happen. The raises for part-timers in this contract are substantial. In fact, they're not just substantial, they're huge. It took decades for part-time start rates to get from $8.50 an hour to $10 an hour. And now they're going to go from $10 to $15.50 an hour in just 5 years, plus the $4.15 in general wage increases on top of that. Of all the things in this contract to complain and threaten to vote no about, this one seems like the hardest sell. It's a 30% increase on day one and a 55% increase by the end of the contract. Tyler calls that a concession. I'm going to have to go ahead and disagree. Next, he talks about the 70-hour work week. He claims that it is a concession that the Teamsters have agreed to strict rules regarding the implementation of a 70-hour work week. But he forgets something really important here, which is that your old contract didn't include any restrictions on the use of the 70-hour work week. That means every word of language on the subject is, by definition, an improvement. Before, it was perfectly legal for UPS to go to a 70-hour week whenever they wanted, only paying you time and a half and forcing you in first before anyone else. Several local unions tried to stop them, including Local 174 and Sean O'Brien's Local 25 in Boston. But it turns out, legally, none of us had a leg to stand on. Local 25 failed on that one. UPS threatened them with legal action. We tried, but the law's the law. So we negotiated a better law. Under the new agreement, they can't force anyone who doesn't have 8 hours left. They have to force everyone else first before they can force a regular package car driver. And they're going to pay you double time. And let's be real, at double time, that's an $800 day. You can pay for the entire Christmas in one day of work. You really think nobody will volunteer for that? I'm sure right now you can all think of at least 5 people at your building who take every minute of overtime they can get and who will be thrilled to make nearly $1,000 in one single Saturday of work. The 9-5 language, I'm actually going to circle back to that one at the end. So next let's talk about inflation rates. Tyler shows us inflation rates for the past 2.5 years and uses those figures to claim that the wage increases in the contract are actually a pay cut. I have a lot of problems with this. First of all, a pay cut is a pay cut. $4.15 an hour in raises is not a pay cut. But most importantly, I gotta wonder, Tyler, why 2.5 years? This is a 5-year contract, inflation trends are long term. When I put together my financial analysis videos, I focused on 5 and 10-year trends because that's the responsible thing to do. It makes no sense at all to use only 2.5 years of data, unless that was the only data that supported his argument. Average CPI nationwide over the past 5 years is about 1.9%, and over the last 10 years is 1.8%. The raises in the proposed contract outpace that, and they dramatically outpace it when you consider the full package of wages, healthcare, and pension. Next up, pension rates. When Tyler complains about pension rates, he forgets one of the most important things about them, that they go up every year. In this proposed contract, there's $1 a year every year going into pension and healthcare. Tyler completely disregards this. He tries to project out pension payments over decades, but he doesn't include pension increases in that calculation. That's just irresponsible. Your pension has gone up every year since its inception. Why on earth would you assume that would stop? And for decades. I think even more shocking and damaging is that Tyler suggests that he would have preferred to see a 401k. Honestly, when I heard him say that, my jaw dropped. It made me wonder if he really understands the difference between a 401k and a defined benefit pension like the one you have now, because if he did understand, there's no way in hell he would prefer a 401k. With a defined benefit pension, you are guaranteed a monthly payment when you retire. You receive that payment every single month until you die. As for how big that payment is, that depends on a lot of things. But what's important is that monthly check is yours by guarantee, and you contribute nothing out of pocket. With a 401k, almost all the risk is on you. You have to contribute out of your own paycheck just to even get UPS to put any money in at all. If you can't afford to contribute, then you get nothing. If you make some unwise investments, or if there's a stock market crash, you get nothing. And unless you have a crystal ball that tells you exactly how old you're going to be when you die, then you have no idea how much money you can afford to spend each year of your retirement. You'll be stuck working longer just to stand a chance at retiring, and that retirement will by definition be worse than what you would get from a defined benefit plan. In fact, a 401k is so much more favorable to the employer that UPS kicked all their management out of the defined benefit plan and forced them into a 401k plan. Tyler says he'd prefer a 401k. Here at Local 174, that'll happen over our dead bodies. That, friends, would be a vote no. Oh, and by the way, while we're on the subject of pensions, Tyler is also spreading a rumor that UPS can opt out of defined benefit pension plans in 2023. That's a straight up lie. I don't know who told him that, but they're lying to him. It's a misreading of a letter of understanding. It does not say that UPS can dump you guys into a 401k plan. What it says is that at the end of this contract, UPS has the option to negotiate, like the Teamsters have to agree with it, negotiate, a situation exactly like what happened with Central States, where they paid a ton of money and put the members into a better pension plan rather than leaving them in a failing one. If they tried to shove our members into a 401k, we would strike them to death before we'd agree to that. I say again, that is not happening. Next, Tyler has an issue with this change in the language that says no driver can be disciplined by technology. This is actually just a misreading of the language. The contract language that refers to related only to GPS and telematics. So unless they're implanting tracking devices into inside employees, that language only ever applied to drivers anyway. So really, this is just a housekeeping change, nothing to be upset about. So overall, Tyler describes this agreement as concession city, with the reason being that he didn't get everything he wanted. Except, that's not what concession means. Concessions are when the company takes away things that you already have. A pay cut, or having to pay out of pocket for medical, or a decrease in your pension. Those would be concessions. None of those happened in this agreement. You want to know what other concessions UPS wanted but didn't get? They wanted any 5 days in 7. They wanted no restrictions on start time, straight time on Saturdays and Sundays, straight time on the day after Thanksgiving, and weekend work being done by part-timers. no's would be concessions. The negotiating committee beat back every single one of those. Now, I said I was going to circle back to talk about the 9-5 language, so let's do that now. At about 7 minutes into his final thoughts on Vote No video, Tyler says something very interesting. He's complaining about the 9-5 grievance process, and he says, you file your grievance, you wait 6 months, and you end up settling for 30 or 40%. Now, I told you my jaw dropped about the 401k thing, but my jaw hit the floor when he said that. Tyler, bro, 30%? Are you shitting me? You want to talk about concessions? Letting UPS get away with not paying you the money that they legally owe you, that is a concession. You say they're taking money out of your pocket, you're giving the money out of your pocket. At Local 174, if our Secretary Treasurer Rick Hicks heard that our UPS business agents were settling 9-5 grievances for 30% of what they owed, that agent would be fired. As it should be. That's money that they owe you. But the real reason this statement shocked me isn't because of the money. It's because Tyler just admitted that his local union doesn't enforce the contract in its current form. And that, brothers and sisters, means Tyler and Local 344 are part of the problem. Because look, this contract is just the law. It's up to you to be the police officers that enforce that law. And if you guys aren't willing to do that, well, it doesn't really matter what the contract says, does it? The best kind of leverage to get a stronger contract is when local unions consistently and militantly enforce the language that's in the contract right now. If there are Teamsters who can't even stand up to the company when it comes to settling a 9-5 grievance, well, that's not very good leverage, is it? Local 174 has gotten some hate from the Vote No crowd, who've implied that we are recommending a yes vote because we're too scared to take on UPS, which is honestly ridiculous. We are recommending a yes vote because this is the best and richest contract ever negotiated, and if you don't agree with me, find me a better union contract and we can compare them. We aren't afraid of the 22-4 job taking away work from the RPCD because the contract has tons of language to prevent that, as long as local unions enforce that language. And for us, that's no problem. We enforce this contract every single day. We take on every single fight, and we win. So Tyler, my question is, do you? Because that's what it all comes down to. If you want to get a stronger contract, you need to do more than just bitch about what's been presented to you. You need to show a willingness to fight UPS and hold them to not just the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law, the intent behind the language as it was negotiated at the table. Tyler wants to know why we didn't get automatic triple time after 9.5 hours. Well, he answered his own question with that 30 to 40% figure. We had no leverage to get UPS to agree to that, and that is because of a crisis of leadership. If you are watching this and you settle your 9-5 grievances for less than 100%, stop it. Tell them to pay what they owe, or you'll take them to panels. Tell your business agent to do their job. Tell your local union leadership to do their job. I recognize that people like Tyler just want to make UPS a better place to work, but they're looking for solutions and placing blame in the wrong places. Instead of looking to the national master to solve all your problems, you need to look to your own local union leadership and your own actions on the shop floor. Do you settle grievances for less than you're owed? Do you take ROs instead of making UPS pay you your 8-hour guarantee if they want to send you home? If you're harassed, do you grieve it every single time? If a supervisor works for 5 minutes, do you grieve that? There are huge improvements in this contract for the local unions that enforce it. Monetary penalties for repeated harassment, triple time for repeat offenders on supervisors working, much better 9-5 language for when they actually don't adjust your dispatch, and Tyler doesn't mention any of that. If everyone agrees to spend the next 5 years learning to be militant and enforce the shit out of this contract every single day, then in 2023, just think what we can do. Or we could vote no, go out on strike, and give up everything we worked for. And for what?